So yeah, anyway, now that we have basically welcomed people back, I'll just say a few final words about 4YMM for this week and what our plans are for the remaining week. In the meantime, I will open up the queue so you can start getting your codes in, and then I will get into the codes right away. Now, I did mark this as a short stream where 1% is preferred, simply because I don't expect the queue to be open for very long, since we did spend the first hour of the stream, well, the previous segment of the stream, on the 4YMM content. Sorry, just give me a moment. We are now open. And let me just edit the stream info again to reflect the fact that we will be doing next followed by sub next. So, thank you once again, Nikki Brady, for the sub earlier on in the previous stream. And I somehow believe that your code is not actually level code. Sorry, the bot is still acting up. I forgot to deactivate the alternate message. Just give me a moment to fix that. I have to get the bot to stop interfering because our previous message had not yet been removed. Just give me a moment while I fix this. Okay. Okay, Mr. Lesser said I can do Terminators first. Okay, sure, I'll reorder that to reflect that. Just give me a moment to kind of manage everything on the back end. And yeah, we won't be going for especially long, but I'll definitely play everybody who is in the queue now, and we might even have some time for additional resubmissions. So yeah, I guess I didn't really get to have a proper final word on our coverage of 4YMM this week. Let me just make sure the bot is displaying properly. Okay. And you like some feedback? Yeah. Punch that in. Read the description as well. Okay. But here is the plan. So this was actually already a little bit of a spillover stream from what we were doing in our daytime PM slot. Ah yes, this level. We actually did need to continue finishing it because I was a little bit stuck at the end last time, although we had most of the method figured out all the way to the second segment. So yeah, let's take a look at it again. And it seems like it has gotten a very good number of plays since we last looked at it. Also a very healthy number of clears. Escort Master Sword to victory. Tutorial hit question block. Yes, and we did not see a tutorial screen last time as well, so I will actually take a look at it this time before we forget. So yeah, 4YMM is something that we are going to be following every week during the daytime PM slot if I am able to do so. I'll just kind of keep everybody updated on that as it goes. Also, during the backlog streams that we tend to run on weekends, I will be doing kind of a maker preview. In a sense that I'll be showing off some older levels by some of the excellent makers who are involved in the 4YMM project, just to add a little bit of extra context to the commentary that we have about them. This is just here to teach you how to slap the sword, right? Slap the sword and the marker, hang on. Then, yeah, that's going to show you how it eventually drops the key. Okay, and that drops you back out. Okay, nice little tutorial segment, I guess. Particularly to show you what the markers are for. I mean, there's a lot of visual information for people who may not have done the concept, but it does tell you ultimately what the goal of each of the sword escort segments is going to be, and I think that's going to be useful. Okay. A bit off-center, but we'll deal with it. And we'll just tap that over to the right side. As before. It's really just the last segment that I was having tons of trouble with due to my reading of the boss pattern. But I remember liking what I saw, so... just need to get back here and finish it. Yep, Kurgan, I mean, I did it privately to grab the first clear, but I actually don't mind running it if you want to talk about the level. It shouldn't take too long if you would rather have me play that on video instead of something else of yours that would be older. Certainly no problem with it. Okay. No, we should have taken this in the upper path, not the lower path. Although the upper path would have been... the lower path would have been salvageable, given the placement of the jump blocks. Prevents precisely that. I just didn't think about the donut blocks that were the safety points over here. But yeah, if you need a playtest, I don't mind redoing something that I completed privately. I was mostly just doing that out of curiosity anyway, so... if you think it's valuable to see it, I will gladly play. Oops. Yeah, particularly because, you know, having seen the older versions, I can actually speak to some of the changes. Oh, whoops. Got to tap the on-off switch. You know, especially in light of some of the things that we were talking about in the previous stream when it comes to changes made for things like difficulty tuning. But, yeah, we'll just, have the sword. I mean, given that it is a bit of a lengthy multi-part level, I probably won't be taking too much into queue after that, but we'll see how I'm doing with this one, because this one was fairly time-consuming for me to get through, and I didn't end up beating it the last time I looked at it. Okay, let's hit the off switch carefully from this end once the platform is giving us a little bit of room to move. Angry Sun? I don't remember what the Angry Sun is for. Ah, yes. Okay, it's gonna give me a key. And hey, Electrodude. Welcome. We just reconnected after a disconnect that happened at the very end of my 4YMM coverage today. We did all of the 4YMM levels in 2 segments, one in our daytime stream where we did the first 6 levels with Cake, and one in our nighttime stream where we did the Zerfink puzzle level and the Nira music level, also with Cake. So I could have theoretically done it all in one stream if I hadn't spent as much time as I did misreading a particular thing on Buckland's level, which was excellent. Yeah, really good to finally catch up to what everybody else is playing. I am also... oh, I was going to tell you this earlier. After playing the 4YMM levels, I am very, very impressed that your world record on Nabuza's level in particular is still holding after all this time. That is not a hard level to beat, but in terms of trying to optimize a record on it, like, that takes some practice and some routing. And so, very skillful work from you there. I'm sure that some people have made an attempt at it since. Oops. Well, when I looked at it earlier today, I don't know if it's still holding as of now, but when I was looking at it earlier today, it was still the record time out of the, like, probably, I don't know, hundreds of clears for sure. So yeah, very impressive. Like, it's not the kind of level where I would even necessarily think about going for a record if I wanted to keep my sanity. Yeah, Terminator, as we discussed last time, I feel like this whole segment is definitely much better now without auto-scroll. I still think this spot is maybe a little bit rough in terms of losing Master Sword on the spikes, but you know, it is a bit of a check that is not long after the checkpoint, so I suppose it works. Well, there are tons of things I found in Nebuza's left-right level where you can easily lose time to just following your instinct as a Mario player and following habits that you can have when it comes to, you know, course correction or jump correction. And that makes a big difference when you spend attempts on retrying things. Okay, so let's punch that over. Okay, so here's this segment once again. Gotta be careful. Nope, nope. Got bumped there over and over. We'll need to redo this. Yeah, permuting perspectives, I don't know who the current record holder is. I did just play that earlier, but I wasn't really paying attention to the world record, except that I think it's around a 2-minute mark and something that I was not even close to approaching. And yeah, there were a couple of things about it that did look kind of exploitable to people who would know how to do item jump very well, and would be exploitable in a way that we definitely would not have been able to pick up, I think, through the level of playtesting that we were putting towards it, because, you know, there are a lot of good players who are testing for 4YMM, but a lot of them certainly a lot better than me, but there are going to be things that are outside their capacity to just smash apart, right? So. But yeah, when an exploit is that difficult to execute, I don't think it's an issue. Like when it's just, you know, less convenient than just doing the level and it isn't making anything easier, then I think of it more like a speed trick. And speed tricks are fine, that's how records happen. Okay. Yeah, okay, raising this, rather firing when the sword is already kind of over and basically not between me and Trampoline, that works a lot better. Basically I had to rethink when I'm firing, and I think the sword has to be behind me when I fire, because that solves problems. Can't really do that for this P-switch though. I will need to stay on this side. However, in the off position, P-switch might be a little bit easier to hit. Okay. Oh, I finally got it. And then we should be able to just ride this out. Here we go. Yeah, that went a lot better once I thought about changing my tactics to something very consistent in terms of only firing whenever I had the sword already behind me. I still think the flow of how it kind of enforces the lock at the end is maybe a little bit strange, but I don't think it matters too much now. It just, you know, the last room before I come out the door after the flag, or, yeah, to the right of the flag, like, it is something that Feels like a little bit of a bump in the flow of the level as you complete it, and I wonder if it was just left over from the previous version. It does not, of course, interrupt anything that you are actually playing. I think it works well in its current form. So thank you very much for that, Terminator. After all the disastrous attempts that we had the previous times you submitted it, I'm glad I finally got to see that properly and show it off in style. And yeah, Electrodude, you found a soft lock using a pow drop, but you missed a cheese. Yeah, I don't know if I would have seen that soft lock. I don't think I did. I was thinking about that in some ways, but, you know, in terms of being trapped with some of the objects, but usually most of that level seemed to be fairly good about giving you some kind of reset point through doors and pipe. Okay, so this is going to be a sub next. Yeah, Terminator, I think this boss idea was far better than the previous version with the Pokey, much clearer, and I think it works well with the concept. I had a lot of trouble with it, I know, the last time I played this, but I think, once again, that understanding where I should be standing when I fire to not constantly get bumped back into the sword was something that, you know, worked well. I previously, I think, when I was just kind of reacting to that part of the level chaotically, I definitely struggled with it. But this time, you know, it came together quite quickly. And I think it's designed in such a way that, you know, when it clicks, it really clicks. And yeah, I think it conceptually makes a lot more sense now to have a boss that feels like the rest of the level was training you for that moment. That's how a lot of bosses should feel, in some ways. That the techniques that you learned earlier in the level are finally useful. One of your older levels, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I get new makers coming in here all the time, or makers that haven't known me for very long, and getting to play their older work, even with the rougher spots in them, is always something that I kind of enjoy doing. I mean, you know, sometimes I might not necessarily like the levels if they're really kind of rough around the edges, but they tend to give me something interesting to talk about, so shoot before you shoot. So this is going to be from last July, really first week of the game, under 1.0 patch. Name says it all, so let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, you know, this is a week 1 level. I expect that even the very best week 1 levels had a few rough patches here and there. I absolutely expect that. Okay, so this is just going to show you that you are going to fire through glass pipes in order to hit piranha plants. I see that the plant on the other side is kind of barely off screen, but that's, you know, I guess the level warns you about that quite a bit. Yeah, it tells you that you should be firing 3 shots. We lost a flower, but we'll see if we get some kind of refresh on it. Yes, we did. Good. Yeah, because it is kind of trusting you to know how many shots to fire before you go off camera. It's the only thing, really. Oh, I was going to grab that one up. And I still can, as long as I come back here to grab the flower. I can't grab the one up, rather, but I can still get through the level. You still got the record. Well, yeah, that is impressive. Terminator, thank you for living on the edge. We'll hopefully be able to get to that. That's going to blow up, and that's going to not give me access to the door because it is going to break that open. But what will it give me access to? It will let me scroll up and see the star. The star is going to go left throughout that pipe. Ah, okay, there's the door. I see. Yeah, no, I see that the bomb probably needs to be placed elsewhere instead of just being hit there if I wanted to actually use it for the door. Oh, whoops, didn't remember to fire. We better go back to get a flower. I guess that's the only thing about this level, is that, like, you know, it is sort of telling you from the title to shoot and shoot, and reminding you that you do need to shoot first and ask questions later. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can tell this is definitely a sort of excited to work with 3D World level, where you also have that pathway up top for you to ram into everything once you collect a star and, you know, collect a whole run of 1-ups. Somebody set us up the cake. Electrodude, that is actually the comment that I wrote in the cake room. Or maybe you are saying that because you saw that that was the comment I left in the cake room. So, Electrodude, was I the only one, we were talking about this earlier, was I the only one who thought that in Pipeline Pump Works, it seemed like the 4YMM room was the only secret room and that the cake on the flag was the only cake? Like, did I understand that properly, or did I actually miss the cake room? Because I found a 4YMM room quite easily, and I saw the cake at the very end, but I didn't see any kind of separate cake room, and I was wondering if that was part of the intentional design. So, okay. Because that was a little unclear to me. That's the only thing. So, you know, just kind of asking around to see how other people who have been playing those have been doing. Okay, now we need to start from the top layer and work our way down. Yeah, we went for every cake when I ran it. I felt like, I mean, completionism is a thing I do. So. Yeah, with an auto-scroll, I think it is sometimes something that can be difficult to implement. That's definitely important consideration. Whoops. Kind of neat sometimes to... Whoops. Why did I receive that bomb? I don't know what that bomb was for, really. Yeah, I guess we can just... Here. Okay. Looks like that's just a reset door. Let's blow that up. Yeah, Dr. Mario, or how I learned to stop wearing the Love the Cake. Yeah, very true. So, what else was it I was saying about Kubrick on one of my streams lately? There was oh yeah, no, it was when Lecter made this like kind of spoof graphic of what like a troll level creator or troll level streamer reacting to Kubrick's The Shining would be like, you know, it's like. And he made this mock-up of, you know, the YouTube thumbnail of a streamer with a funny face, or Kubrick with a funny face, saying like, trolled by this hedge maze, or whatever it was. I'll have to look that up. That was a really funny graphic. Hey, Awesome Lamp, welcome. Let's see here. We won't be running for too long today, simply because we ran through all of the remaining 4YMM levels first. But I will try to get through everybody who is already in the queue, so. Oops. Expect bomb to come through here, but we can just toss that back. Toss that back at the wall. Glad to have a Fire Flower refresh right on the pipe here. Looks like we just need to take out Boom Boom from this spot. Now I can't see the extent of that pipe to the right. I see. It's going to basically, yeah, get some bombs, we hope. And yeah, that should be within range of doing some damage. Guess not. Just fire. Yeah, it feels like there really should be a scroll lock on the left side of this room, just to control the camera positioning to maintain Boom Boom on screen. Once again, you did say it was an early level, and it could just be that you haven't played very much with the scroll locking at the time. I mean, why don't we just fire through here? I don't see why not. Yeah, Yeah, so I'm also not really clear then in that case on why I should ever be firing from the left side to begin with, because it definitely seems like this room was laid out with the expectation that you would be able to see more of it on camera. You're surprised by a relatively large amount of hate comments on Nabuza's level. Wow, that's... I haven't been reading other people's comments, so I can't really say. We got a key. Why am I hanging around here? I was hanging around here because I was reading chat. Going to run us out of time by self. Whoops. 50 seconds. Better take that Mario Kart seriously. Mario Kart music. And then, whoops, missed a wall jump. I mean, it's globally loaded in there anyway. I'm not really too concerned. Oh, nope. Shoot and shoot. It's okay, we'll just take damage through it. Just cheese the hell out of that thing. And... down. Yeah, the thing about the pipe is that the object is globally loaded in here anyway. I guess once it comes out, then it would be at risk of despawning. Then this is also the 1.0 patch, and so I don't remember how some of that stuff would function. Also, the other thing is... oh, I've got 4 seconds. I gotta go. Didn't realize that. Wasn't watching the clock. Yeah, Julian, welcome. Thanks for coming by. Lone Jedi, thank you for coming by and queuing with Ankle Biters Unchained. Julian, I believe the fellow who had the gift sub was Bex Plays, who is one of our other regulars who comes by from time to time. Yeah, I gave a whole pile about a week ago, so... Yeah, glad to see you drop by, even if it's just briefly. We did play all of 4YMM earlier in the last 2 streams, so before this one we played the Zerfink and Nira levels, and the stream disconnected right at the very end, but apparently the viewers tell me that they actually did manage to see the ending. And before that, in our previous stream, that was... I guess yesterday evening in the EU, we did manage to run through levels 1 through 6, and we were insistent on getting the cake in every single level, and so that's what we did. We got all the cake. So yeah, I'm always glad to see you drop by. Just, you know, even just to say hello. And I hope the stream has been going well for you too recently, in terms of giving people plenty of viewer feedback that they will hopefully take to heart. Oh, forgot to shoot and shoot. That's okay, we'll just once again cheese that. Yeah, wasn't paying attention to the clock earlier at all, and that's just the kind of thing that happens. Oh, I guess I missed the opportunity to beat Bomb over to the bonus room to the left. That's a good way of doing a bonus room. I actually kind of like that. Because then it does give you a reason to beat the timer. To the extent that you can. Okay, this is just going to be a pipe maze. There was no way we were going to do this in the 4-second allotment when we came in last time. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. I mean, I guess the vacation sort of implies that you've been seeing restrictions relaxed enough that people can go on vacation. I know that you had said a little while ago that I think classes were starting up again and things were reopening. So yeah, thank you for that, Icky Brady. You know, like we were saying, as an early level where you were kind of playing around with a lot of the 3D world elements in the first time, and it does show, but at the same time it shows in a way that, you know, definitely revealed, I guess, the way you were already thinking about how to use those elements in a very interactive manner. So thank you for that submission. We'll mark that as a win and go on to the next in the queue. Let me just catch up in chat for a minute. I missed a couple of messages, mostly about Julian's vacation. Oh, and also, yeah, the sort of puzzlement at how anybody could possibly dislike what was going on in Nabuza's wonderful left-right level. But, you know, some people are, I think, not so great about any unconventional interactions, that some players don't really have a lot of the same patience for things that break them out of their comfort zone. And for them, I think, you know, a lot of 4YMM in general is not going to necessarily be a good fit simply because of the emphasis on a lot of interactive creativity in terms of how you are engaging with the levels themselves. So Mr. Lesser will take a look at GMK. Yeah, no worries, Julian. It's nice to just see you drop by and say hi. I mean, sometimes in the same situation where I also don't have time to do anything but give you a bit of a greeting, so enjoy your vacation. Hope to see you back soon. "1-1 boss fight." Okay, so this is going to be a very new upload. Shell jump for power up rather. And thank you for offering me first clear on something brand new. Going to optimize the record? Okay. That'll be interesting. Okay, so this looks like 1-1 so far in terms of the actual block and pipe setup, of course, with... Oh, I see. So... Hang on. We didn't do this properly. And now I missed my opportunity because I obviously needed to bounce on the Koopa above the trampoline in order to proceed through the hard route. Of course we're going to do the hard route. That's what Mario Maker is for, apparently. Nope. Needed to do a nice full jump and land in the middle over there. I think the visual clarity is fine. The timing just took me a moment to respond to, and you know, it is a hard mode route that is significantly harder than how the lower part of the level looks. Some players will definitely give up on that right away, as expected. Yeah, we'll get up on the right side and hit the on-off switch. I think it is a little bit of a shock to see that massive change in pace. I haven't looked at the lower segment, though, in terms of how it's going. Whoops. So maybe we should look at the lower segment first. It seems like it might force your way back up to the top segment anyway to show you the hard part of the level. Get around a Cheep Cheep. Oh, checkpoint, okay. Interesting with that checkpoint, because you grab the checkpoint, it's always going to respawn with the on-off switch in the on position. And so what we would not want to do is come out here, drop in, come back and grab the checkpoint when this side is clear. Because the issue with that is simply that we would, take a look here. Yeah, we would respawn on the wrong side of that. That's okay. Got the power up. We've got the power. Okay, so... Interesting. It does give you access to the pipe, though, and that's the only way forward. But you do need to redo that whole segment up top, I think, whenever you respawn at a checkpoint. That's the only thing, because, you know, with the checkpoint placement, you do need to think about how the on-off state is going to reset. Now, there's only one key here. I assume that the one key belongs to Morton. The fact that we are respawning right at the checkpoint flag, however, does give us access once more to the Fire Flower. Okay. And then we'll just head back up. And a pipe. Okay, that went smoothly. Surprisingly smoothly, in fact. Let's just get rid of Boom Boom for the sake of spacing. I know it's almost certainly Morton holding the key, but we just need to make our way there. I do think the fire bar on the left side here is maybe restricting space a little too much. But we'll see how we can handle it. Whoops. Yeah, because I'm not sure really so far if I whoops, forgot to actually get the flower. Yeah, so far I'm not really sure if the addition of Boom Boom and so many moving elements there that constrict your space are really necessarily adding the level of interest, I guess, in the difficulty of the level. This is just going to be a bit of a death trap. But we'll try to work with it and trying to get the flower every time. I think the flower is just much too helpful to miss. I'm going to need to grab the other Koopa. Of course, the fact that we are respawning from checkpoint mostly just serves to increase our final completion time when we get around to it. Yeah, I don't think the checkpoint placement there really does anything. Like, there's almost no distance between coming from here and coming from the right. I mean, it gives us very quick access to the fire flower and shell jump, and it sets a timer. But the fact that it is resetting the switches to the on state upon a respawn anyway, and does mean that that checkpoint doesn't actually do very much for you as a player. But let's get around here and just... Whoops. Yeah, spikes feel a little bit restrictive here. Yeah, in general, I think maybe this room is too tight a space for the amount of stuff that is going on in it. But we'll try to do what we can with it. Okay. Up we go. Okay. Yeah. It is a pretty restricted space. Like, I'm not sure why they need to be spike tiles on a Morton. Just as easily be, you know, ground blocks or something. And it's one of those things where, you know, like when it comes to difficulty tuning, I'm sort of generally of the opinion of thinking about difficulty in terms of, does it actually make the player's interaction more interesting? Usually I find that with most things involving precision spacing, that, particularly with the one-tile spikes, that the answer is no. But then that's just kind of a matter of preference on my part. Let's reset the timer on this whole thing. No, I don't think I need a hit yet. I think I'm fine. I mean, maybe I'm missing something really critical, but like, I feel like at this point I should be able to figure out my own method for it, and if I'm not figuring out a method for it, then something is probably too unclear. Get back over here. Oh, there's a 1-up. Oh, of course it is, because it's 1-1. That's where the 1-up lives. I mean, I can kind of go over this side as well. Let's just get Boom Boom out of the way. Morton is just going to drop Fire just all over the place. I see bombs that I can eventually toss. Yeah. Yeah, I think the boss room, you know, as something that is a one-screen boss room that is locked on all sides, is probably too small to handle everything that you have going on in there. Like, I think it needs less. But I mean, that's partly just as a matter of readability. And partly because, I don't know, I generally just like more spacing, particularly when you have something like Morton where with the stun, it does restrict the player's level of control, right? And, like, whenever you restrict a player's level of control through things like the stun, and through things like the height restriction, it seems like it might be better to compensate for that by leaving you a little bit more space to play with. But it's okay. We'll try to do this right. That's the first shell jump I've actually died to. Yeah, I definitely feel like Boom Boom is a little bit extraneous there, but it's a mix of a couple of things. Like, you know, it's partly the spike tiles, partly the firebar spacing that, you know, seems a little bit irregular and therefore isn't the neatest thing in the world to read. But yeah, it's just kind of the sense of some of the elements clashing with each other, I think. Obviously, this firebar will be necessary as a platform that gets us up to the key door. But yeah, it's a combination of a lot of things that I think by themselves are probably fine, but put together don't tend to interact very well. Like the ground stomp causes a number of issues, for instance. But yeah, we'll try to make do with it and see what happens. I mean, first clear is available. Whoops. Yeah, yeah. I can see the logic behind having the CP for the shell jump. And the shell jump feels really good, actually. I mean, I'm kind of a beginner shell jumper myself, rather. And the fact that I have done that as often as I can tells me that the spacing on the shell jump is actually really, really good. I rarely get it right that often. Sneakin', really glad to see you back. Looking forward to the new code that you have to show me. Bonsai Bill's Ballroom, okay. Yeah, Sneakin', good to be back for what is actually our first viewer level session of the week. I was not originally expecting to run this, in fact, but I was finishing up the last few 4YMM levels earlier and had quite a bit of time left over. And I know you're probably supposed to throw a bomb up here. Throw a bomb to the right side. I feel like the fact that so much fire lights the bomb ahead of time might be a bit of an issue. Okay. We're almost certainly going to die to something very silly at this point. That's what happens. Yeah. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with what you are getting at, Lone Jedi, in that when you have a fight that has a lot of complexity to it that takes some time to strategize and read, I think it is kind of important for the player to feel like they're taking the initiative in terms of picking the fight. And the way to do that often is by having some sense of control over your entry point or your entry timing. I mean, that's not always going to be the case. Like, very often with boss fights, since they are taking place in one room, you are just going to get dropped into them, right? But you get dropped into them with an opportunity to kind of read what's going on before it hits you and make a plan. And I think as the designer who is very accustomed to what your level is doing, that plan is something that you might not necessarily think about, because from the player's perspective, you're sort of not seeing how they're figuring it out for the first time. Now, notice that killing Boom Boom actually is mandatory here. I've noticed now because it is an entity block. Killing Boom Boom unlocks the bombs from the pipe. So I do see now what Boom Boom is here for, in that it is actually enforcing a multi-phase sequence. I don't think Boom Boom needed to be the enemy to do that, but I can kind of see the intention here. That, like, you want a phase 1 where you fight Boom Boom. You want a phase 2 where you throw bombs that have been unlocked. I definitely see the idea. I don't think the spacing works very well for the idea, but the idea is actually good. So, okay, I was just saying that I started to get that down more consistently, and of course we could just miss over and over now. We actually did have that down. There we go. But yeah, you know, using the entity block on the pipe to create a multi-phase fight, like, that's fine. That's ambitious. That's something that's kind of neat to have when you have something multi-phase. I just think the layout isn't necessarily the best layout to make that happen, particularly with all the things like the fire bars in a way, and, you know, the stunning pattern that's coming from Morton, etc. Okay. Okay, we gotta let that go. Okay. Okay, on we go. Yeah, everything here is feeling pretty smooth, at least. Like, it is reliable. Some things like the blue platforms that are to the left of the red blocks, like, I don't really see the point of that. And that, like, the blue platform of the on-off blocks doesn't seem to be performing a particular function, but okay, we have to not let Morton's flames ignite the bombs prematurely. We also have to not let the bombs blow up all of these platforms prematurely, so that's going to be a bit of a difficult call. Yeah, like, it's something I think that's often something that comes out in revision, like when you redo a level, or kind of, you know, refine it with multiple passes, that you begin to see what the best ideas in the level are, and once you see the best ideas in the level, you can start to strip it down to that. So, for example, you look at a boss fight here, there's a lot of stuff going on. Dodging fire bars, dealing with Boom Boom, dealing with Morton stun, dodging the burners, having the two-phase setup with Boom Boom followed by the bombs. Like, there are a lot of ideas here, and it's important with a fight, I think, to pick the best ones. And to me, the best one here definitely is the kind of two-phase notion. The fire bars, to me, feel mostly extraneous. Like, you definitely want the player, you know, when they do a boss fight, to kind of come out of that fight and they can really answer the question, like, what was that fight about? And it might be about, you know, say, two things, or two things in combination, but, like, I think there should usually be a clearer impression that you come out of a fight saying, okay, I know what that fight was about. And that might be a helpful way to look at it when you are kind of in a tuning phase. Yeah, because, you know, like, the height restriction on the spike tiles, the sort of fire bars of different lengths, the burners kind of popping out at you. Like, I think a lot of that stuff doesn't speak to what works best about the fight. And so, you know, when people are talking about levels having focus, that's usually what they mean, is that, you know, you've learned how to strip things out after you've put them in. And strip out the right things, so the things that work best about a level feel like they have remained as major highlights. Yeah, number one thing to look out for is a stop. Yeah, that's definitely the case. Whoops. Okay, we've got the bombs available now. We just need to not let the first one detonate in my face. Yeah, and the issue with the bomb pattern at this point is that a lot of them are igniting right away. That's gonna be death. No way. No way. Okay. Okay, that's gonna be one hit. No. Try spamming my spin jump to avoid a stun. Yeah, that might be an idea. Particularly because of the low height restriction on that room in general. Okay. I am going to be closing the queue fairly soon, but I think most people who are in here have already entered, so not too concerned about the length. It's just that I did say I was going to run a short stream, and do expect each level to be taking me a bit of a while, so we'll yeah. I feel like it's one of those things where, you know, as you make more levels, you feel less and less inclined to stuff all of your ideas together at once. And that's just partly something that comes from, you know, making more things that have a much clearer sense of purpose. That, you know, you can look at certain ideas and say, okay, it's not going to fit here, we should save that for a different level instead, where it can really be the start of the show. It's a Mario Maker level. I think that's a good way of putting it. It is, I think, definitely a Mario Maker level. In some sense, I think, you know, Nintendo's marketing for Mario Maker right from the beginning has been encouraging a lot of stuff that is very scattered and spams a little bit of everything. I certainly feel like the way that Nintendo presents the game to be maybe a little unhelpful. I don't actually see levels that are scattershot very often. It's actually kind of unusual for me simply because I am mostly playing viewer submissions, and that a lot of people who do submit to me are, you know, they generally, I think, have a very clear sense of purpose with level design. No problems with seeing something that's at an earlier stage of development, of course. That's, I mean, one of the things we do here is to give feedback on that stuff and hopefully improve everybody's sense of finesse when it comes to making a level, even if they all have their own style. As makers, you're all certainly entitled to targeting the difficulty that you want. It's just a matter of making it something that's going to resonate well with a specific audience, and that's kind of part of the rationale for having a lot of focus in one's ideas to begin with is that you can sort of ensure that the people who click with it really, really click with it, right? So, I love gimmicks. I do think that, you know, the thing that sort of appeals to me about Mario Maker is that it's more than just platforming. You interact with it with platforming, and, you know, as somebody who has been playing Mario games for decades, it's a very nice common language to have when it comes to how to play a game. But the thing that really makes Mario Maker and separates it from a lot of the ROM hacks, for instance, is the fact that it is a toolkit with some very well-specified rules for what happens when things are put together. And it's very often the gimmick levels that are going to show that off. That ignited way too early. No way. Yeah, too much fire. Yeah, don't like the burners there. Too much of a space restriction when I'm just trying to throw the bombs. But we'll see. Still working on it. Still working on it. I think we can beat it. If there's tons of stuff after that fight, like if it's not really close to the end, then I do not necessarily expect I'll finish it, but I feel like I can beat that fight. I'm very close. I have defeated Morton before, I just didn't make it safely back to the walk. Whoops. Can I beat this boss without taking damage? I think theoretically you can. You do not actually need to get up to the spikes to face Morton, for instance. You just need to get the bombs over safely. But I think there are certain things about it that are going to feel unreliable because depending on when you defeat Boom Boom, that's going to affect the entity block timing on when the bombs begin to spawn. Depending on when the bombs spawn, relative to Morton's pattern, that's going to affect how soon the bombs ignite after they spawn because of their interaction with Morton's fire timing. So if Morton's fire timing and the bomb spawn timing are inconsistent with each other, and they are going to be inconsistent because the bomb timing depends on when you defeat Boom Boom, that inconsistency is going to make capturing a bomb, you know, with some room to spare to not die to fire, something that is especially inconsistent. Like, if the bombs are always being lit on fire too early simply because the timing was not a great timing, then that fight is going to run into a lot of problems that escalate very quickly. So I think that's kind of mainly the issue that I'm seeing with it. Yeah, Electro Dude, Nabuz was in my chat earlier today and was talking about the left-right contraption and how he originally had a design that had about a 7-frame cooldown, and the current one is about a 12-frame cooldown. And the one with the 7-frame cooldown, apparently, I don't know if you playtested it, but the playtesters were complaining that it was too noisy. Like that, the parts were simply triggering too many sound effects. But apparently 7 frames is as tightly as he could get it, and I definitely ran into some attempts where the current sort of approximately 12-frame cooldown time was in fact a factor that I did manage to trip it too quickly from, you know, changing my facing direction very closely, very soon after a jump. So yeah, there definitely is a cooldown timing that is visible. I think for the most part it is definitely responsive enough for the purposes of the level, though. It's just more that, like, that's one of the reasons I did not envy speedrunning it, is because, like, if you are speedrunning it, I would assume that breaking the mechanism is a serious risk. One of the things that you definitely don't necessarily develop a consciousness for until you start streaming is that playing one level while talking about a different level is surprisingly challenging. No, the note blocks are definitely not very quiet, but apparently the original one was noisier. And the thing is, you know, like, the way he currently has them set up, yeah, you're dealing with note blocks, but at least you're not hearing the clown cars off screen banging around all the time, right? You could definitely imagine that the audibility of the mechanism to be quite a lot worse depending on what has actually spawned. So I will try to beat this boss. If there is much more to level after this boss, I doubt I will continue it. But we'll see how it goes. Well, I did at least maintain... Yeah, the fire bars are just activating the bombs right away. It's just making us too inconsistent. Like, it does seem like it's a matter of luck as to whether I will have a bomb that is even usable. And part of that is the Morton Fire, part of that is the fire bars. The fact that you have the Morton Fire and the fire bars together makes it almost guaranteed that the bombs are just going to ignite too early, like they were spawning in a red state to begin with. And I think that's a slight issue there when you're trying to close out that fight, because, like, you know, whenever you're thinking about difficulty, I feel like difficulty has to be consistent. That it might be something very hard for the player to master, but once you feel like you've mastered it and developed a method and a pattern, you should increasingly feel like that pattern should work every time. And so, why not, even as a maker, if you develop something very hard, that clear checks should usually be relatively easy. Like, I don't know how long it took you to clear check this thing, and maybe you just one-shot it from familiarity. But it does look like a lot of that room just has a consistency issue once you get into the bottom phase. Once again, I think this is more sort of a spacing and execution thing. Like, it's the concept of unblocking the bombs using Boom Boom is, I think, fundamentally a decent one with lots of potential. But once you actually have to deal with, you know, the placement of the fire and the placement of the bombs and how long everything takes, and how, like, the fire kind of drops right on top of your head, that's a lot of stuff to deal with. It's quite often not really going to work. Particularly with this burner here. This burner here is really not great. Like, the height restriction there in general from the burner and the spike, I think, is something that doesn't really make the fight more interesting. And I think, as I've been saying repeatedly, that, you know, that's the question when it comes to adding difficulty to something. Like, you should always be asking is this actually making the player's interaction sort of more clever, more engaging? But, you know, I'll just try to get through it. Like, it's, I feel like I'm reasonably close and that I can do it. And I am a little behind in chat, by the way. I'll get back to that in a sec. And yeah, I'll just kind of jump as much as I can to dodge the stop. Oh, that's a bad idea. Okay, for once this bomb is actually going to give us a decent timing, and of course that's going to be a disaster. Be a disaster mainly because of the burner. Yeah, because it really feels like I have to wait several cycles for a bomb to even be usable. That's one hit. Two hits. Okay. The Spring Cloud Room, you can actually one cycle that. Oh, in Nabuza's level, yeah. I have to think back to that level to think about how that was done. Okay, let's grab the shell and try to power up once more. Yeah, we're reasonably close. That's why I'm kind of staying on this as long as I am, is that I think I actually do have a reasonable shot of doing it before too long. But I think the sort of issues I'm running into with that are pretty clear. Let's start over. Justice boss fight. Yeah, I'm fairly close to finishing it. Forgot to actually tap this. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you actually have any intention of revising this. If you don't, as usual, most feedback I give about level design is really more intended to be about the next level, like, you know, things that you want to keep in mind for the future. You know that sometimes people just kind of feel done with something and want to move on to the next project, and that's understandable. One hit. Nope, that's not going to be a hit. I'm going to miss. Try throwing... Jumping up the spring and throwing a red shell in motion to let the ricochet loop. Huh. Throwing a red shell. Always bring a shell if you know how to shell jump. The issue is that I don't see how I can carry a shell up the vine. Like, there's no shell grab spot here. And the vine is the thing that enforces it, right? Oh, you mean once I drop down? Okay, okay. I guess that's what this trap is for. You know what? That might just be useful. Nope, because I'll accidentally whack that thing with fire. That's not going to be useful. That's the thing, is when you're accustomed to holding dash all the time, and you press back into a dash while you have the fire flower, you just end up setting everything on fire. And that's apparently how we play around here. Okay, one hit. Long last. Two hits. Three hits. Okay, let's survive. We don't have to deal with the Morton Stomp at this point. Have to deal with Firebar timing and the bomb timing, but from that I think we are through. Okay, we got a pipe. And then what kind of shenanigans are going to be here? Okay, that's just clear. Look at that little spike there. Little troll spike. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think the things that can be improved about this are fairly clear. Thank you once again for offering me first clear. Always glad to do an early playtest like that. I'm kind of curious about the clear check time. Okay, about 40 seconds ahead of me, but that's because I was losing a fair bit of time. Just kind of, you know, trying to get around the bombs and trying to position myself properly, so pretty simple. So, up next is going to be next. Now, let me check the list at this point. to see how we're doing. Okay, I do have to close at this point. It is my policy to get through everybody who is in the queue at the point of closing. It's going to run me quite late today, but I do plan to do it. At this point, I will close. And I'll just change my stream title to reflect that. Make sure the bot is displaying properly, so it's not saying that everything's open. Let me just check the list one more time. Okay. Awesome Lamp. Did Awesome Lamp actually check in? Let me just... yeah, here we are. Bunch of the code. That's my choice, yeah. Awesome Lamp, since we are past closing and I'm getting through everybody remaining in the queue, I will likely pick something that is on the lighter side. So, let's just take a look. Yeah, I've completed a lot of the newer stuff. I've seen an early version of the Burrow, I think, but don't mind doing that again. We don't have another choice, but Creeper Cove. This cave has been infected by piranha creepers. That would be a good choice. Given that it's one of the more recent ones I haven't seen, so. Very high percentage. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Yeah, I find ultimately with the last level that the length of it seemed fine at the end. It was a little scattershot in terms of the ideas themselves, but the actual structure of, you know, platforming plus boss seemed like it was just enough to work with. Now, moving on to this level, you have a fairly traditional setup here that just has a good mix of the creepers and the new boomerang suit. Boomerang suit, of course, just being used as an optional power-up here to get you through a little more easily. So, kind of nice to have. The boomerang, of course, also allows me to just grab that without having to deal with bouncing over the creeper. But it's kind of nice that you have that available to people with and without the power-up, and the power-up simply makes things easier. I think the kind of traditional Mario concept of power-ups merely making something easier for the player is something that is maybe almost underused and underrated in Mario Maker, and that we are often, in Mario Maker, I think, thinking about power-ups as a kind of hard lock. I don't know about that second last creeper in that it was not actually attached to the ground and was just sitting by itself in the middle of nowhere, but as a, you know, traditional level, I think that actually worked decently well. I mean, it is, you know, very much a traditional layout that just kind of lets you run around with a boomerang and whack things. That went well, so thank you for the GGs. Yeah, let me just catch up in chat a little bit while I pull up next. Okay, program is going to give me natural language processing. 90x. Way to go. Okay. Yes, this was the submission of a level that I had finished off stream. So you folks looking at the clear and the like here, and that's because I actually played off stream in order to grab the current 20-minute world record. It will hopefully not take me 20 minutes to beat this time, given that we have beaten this and indeed some earlier versions before. but I did invite Program to submit this to see the latest version on stream, and so we can maybe talk about a few things in it. Electrodude butchering the strats and failing after that is just what we call practice. And is also why I'm not really a serious speedrunner in any game, really. Yeah, all this stuff here, pretty much the same as before, as far as I remember. And it has worked well throughout, so no big deal here. This spot here, I remember thinking that it is a little bit of a weird spot in that you do only get that one chance at it, and you do have no option but to treat it as an SD lock and plummet to your death. It's okay now that I'm familiar with it. I think definitely the first time I saw the cloud block lock, it caught me quite a ways off guard. Do we just... Okay, here's the power up. Okay, there we go. I had a little bit of reaction time over there. Okay, got it. Nope, you see. Yeah. I guess that's the thing about a lot of the obstacles in this level, is that there are a lot of things that sort of only give you one chance, and, you know, that's fine. That's clearly the intended design. But there are definitely a lot of things where, you know, visually it might not necessarily be obvious at first glance that you're only ever going to get one chance at them, and then you do them, and then it becomes very clear that that is the case. Right here, that's fine, that went well. Yeah, the little puzzle locks are always kind of pleasant. And we missed. Okay, that's okay. Just needed to give that a bit of a tap. Was definitely slightly worried about that for a moment. Okay, gonna go through here. Going to do the P bump, which is much more manageable underwater when everything's slow. And yeah, that's gonna come through. Yeah, much pipe you wanted red, but... Okay, I see. No, I was thinking about which much pipe you meant. Put in the clouds to make the previous section of meaning. Yeah, I can definitely see how that might be a damage boost check for sure. Yeah, that's very true. If you're trying to enforce the power up, I do see that you have the F lock over here. And you widen this a little bit, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. I see, looking at this segment here, that the first time I ever did this, that I must have not done it in the way you were kind of intending. Like, it does feel like the spacing is a little bit tight on the dry bones side, but I do know that I'm supposed to deflect the dry bones now to kind of get it going on this side. Sometimes it takes me a few attempts to aim that properly. Now, this spot here, I have consistently found to be the roughest spot in the level, in terms of having to time out mentally how many invincibility frames I have before I make the high jump. Whoops. And also sometimes just slipping. Like, I think the thwomp is by far the sort of roughest patch in the level. In terms of feeling like a bit of trial and error when I'm kind of counting how much time I have. Like, because I find that, like, even very experienced players are not necessarily going to know, like, how many seconds or how many frames of invincibility are available. Often we just kind of do that by intuition, right? And, like, that specific obstacle makes me feel like I am supposed to count frames, basically. And, Yeah. I'm just slipping here. I almost wonder if it works better with a big thwomp, but like the width is okay. I'm just kind of slipping over it. Yeah, actually, I think I did in fact cheese a Shelmet through on one attempt the way that you're talking about, so I can see from that explanation why you would have widened it. I definitely did that on at least one attempt when I was playing this off stream. Okay, that worked that time. I'm kind of miraculous that it worked. Like that is a spot that I have tons of trouble with. Helps to overcompensate a little bit there, I think, when it comes to the jump trajectory. So let's on. Spike ball segment. I will say I am definitely a person who was originally skipping right over to the second block, so I can see why you raised that column in the middle there. I don't know if it looks like a very elegant solution, to be honest, but then, like, a lot of spike tiles like that often do feel like band-aid fixes to me. And the thing is, I was originally consistently going directly for the second spike ball, specifically because the timing felt a little bit rough when I was trying to do both. That you'd have to go very quickly after the spawn. Do it as Link. I mean, obviously I did manage to do it that time, so not too big a deal. And yeah, that I think is kind of a camera thing, that spot that I was dying to, where due to the camera scroll of jumping up high, I couldn't quite see what I was aiming for, but maybe it's just a matter of the E-block guidance being a little bit low for the camera height that I was achieving. Yeah, Sneak, and I know you like short levels. I don't mind multi-part epics like this. I mean, normally I wouldn't finish them within a viewer level stream, but this one I've kind of solved the puzzles in it already, so don't mind it so much. I think some concepts definitely need room to breathe sometimes. The way that multi-part levels are very suited to doing. This is basically 5 levels if you count the opening zone. I mean, I've played some things from other submitters here that are basically like 8 to 10 levels, and you know, that happens. Kind of like a world inside a single stage, right? Yeah, no. Yeah. I kind of feel like the segment should have just been one spike jump to begin with. The timing is just a little bit too rough when you're doing two, particularly now that, like, it's not just that the center column is preventing you from going right away to the second spike ball. The center column is actually slowing you down now because you have to pull back off the first jump. Like, you have to pull back and you have to pull higher in the first jump, so it's actually kind of a pretty significant buff to the difficulty. Okay, that time I could actually see where I was going, but then that's because I was not far enough. Yeah, but Sneak In, I think that with the layouts that you kind of tend to do, that makes sense. Because those levels are either very momentum-oriented or are designed specifically to leave a speed path. You know, particularly the levels that have a bit of an explorable speed path. And so, yeah, being speedrun friendly is something that, you know, would be better fit for that style. Okay. Go. Shaved off 10 seconds. Okay, okay. I guess Electrodude, that's likely to hold for quite a while. I'm kind of surprised you had that much wiggle room given that. Like, that timing that you had already looked like it was going to stand for quite a while. Didn't feel anywhere close. Oops. And you know, the 4YMM levels are quite popular. That's a lot of competition for the speed records when you're doing that stuff. Okay, let's do the next cycle. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Gonna do this puzzle segment now. Yeah, this one, I can see that you fix up, no, not this one, I'm thinking of the other one later. Fix up a couple things about it. I'm thinking of the Super Ball bit that comes after this, which was definitely fixed up. Okay. I noticed here, of course, that you can also pluck the clouds. Not that you would want to do that. Yeah, speedrunning this level is basically speedrunning a game, I think so. That's true of a lot of multi-part levels, though. Like, multi-part levels, you know, you want to speedrun it, you pretty much have to do it in a single segment. But, you know, one thing that you do find out about them, of course, is that, like, the clear check still has to be done in 500 seconds, so not as bad as all that. No, okay. To actually follow the timing. This puzzle is basically the only section never changed. Yeah. Yeah, the actual flow of it works well once I see it. Whoops. Okay. Oh, whoops, just missed the pickup. Yeah, this section initially took me a while to understand on the very first attempt, but it tends to go pretty cleanly. Yeah, I like repeatable checkpoint setups in general. Like, it's, you know, with the big central hub. Okay. Really do need to fall onto that accurately for once. Oh, Electro Dude, so you got your capture card rolling and managed to get the speed run down, if that's the speed record that you're sending me. Okay, no, I actually do need both cannonball spawns in order to get to the right anyway. I do need to ride it out as intended. Yeah, Sneakin', I think Brogan was definitely telling me in one of the other streams that they never submit to streamers who have a time limit, and I can see why. Oh, by capture card, I guess you meant that you just pointed your smartphone at the handheld mode or something and expected that to do the trick. Okay, whoops. No, I had to pick that up. No, I had to pick that up and leave one available for riding, so. Flipped one of your speed strats and thought it was really cool. Okay, I will have to look at that, sure. I'll land on this accurately for once. Nope, too early, too early. Let go of that too early. It's okay, I'm sure I'll beat my existing 19-minute time on this thing. Nope, too late. I guess it is one of the shorter levels in terms of, you know, there are a lot of things that are forward moving. Whoops, it's a mistake. And so a lot of that horizontal spacing is, you know, something you engage with in motion rather than a room that you're kind of taking statically like a puzzle. Okay. Ride that out. Drop that. Oh, gotta erase that. No. Okay. Does have a certain speed requirement to it. Right. Yeah, once I figured out the item order here, this part of the level has always felt pretty clean. Even when I'm too slow to make this. I don't know if I like the ceiling height here. I find I bump into that quite a bit when attempting to make that jump. Like, the speed is already acting as enough enforcement, I think, but I tend to find that, you know, with Mario in particular, that it's usually nice to err on the side of having more headroom. But that's partly because I don't like dying to bump my head. That's partly a matter of preference. I'm just too slow. Shouldn't have slipped back earlier. Well, for a section of the cannonball room was changed from spikes to this, yeah. I think I see what you mean. I have to sort of look at what you said and understand it first. Change from spikes into this to force you to not go faster. To get a second cannonball spawn? Yeah, okay. I get it. Yeah. That fall off that blue platform tends to set me off a little bit, but okay, there we go. Yeah. I can definitely see that it is kind of there to deliberately slow me down a little bit. That is, of course, something that we just have to fix through a little bit more swimming accuracy. Okay, here we go. Okay. And here is the Super Bowl segment. Okay. Let's break some of this stuff first of all. Yeah, the bug fixes here are nice. The one-way panel here in particular is nice. I know that was a bit of a problem in an earlier version. I was always kind of concerned that it would throw this thing over. Suppose there is still that one slot here, but then that's something that's going to be controlled by the on-off when you open it up for the Super Bowl deflection passage. Oh. Knock that over, and that's it for this segment. Okay. One thing I noted, by the way, is the safety coin, like the way that it's right next to the spike, does feel a little perilous. I never actually died to that, but I was definitely very conscious every time I grabbed the safety coin at the very end of the level that, in the previous versions as well, that, you know, I could die right there if I'm not careful. It is possible with good timing, by the way, to make this jump without the use of that platform. I'm not going to risk it. I did it once because I lost a power-up and went back to get the Master Sword. And I don't think it needs changing. I think it's fine. I think that sort of reminding the player of the tap interaction the Master Sword and a trampoline is generally a decent idea. Oh. Okay, need to fire at the bomb. Oh, that could have gone badly. Okay. Throw this. Throw the bomb. Whoops. Yeah, this has always been one of the easier segments for me to execute, I think, and that's fine. And that's just partly because I do understand some of the Link interactions with practice now, which is not always the case. So yeah, here's the issue, right? Like, the whole point of the safety coin is to prevent key death. I feel like having the spike right next to the safety coin like that, particularly with the weirdness of spike hitboxes in this game, is almost asking for trouble, in that key death can happen pretty much in this moment right here if you like just tap the wrong direction for one button. But I do know that the intention was to kind of make that come together like a question mark. I think I missed something. Like, there was a way to get down lower in the cake room and get on the bottom layer, right? But that's okay, we did it. So, thank you for that program. Hopefully that was a useful playtest as I raise your clear rate substantially just by being the second person as well as the first person to clear it. Yeah, true ending is if I go left. Oh yeah, because I sort of visually saw that there was something like that going on, but I thought, okay, you know, just grab the flag. Oh, with an extra puzzle, okay. I didn't know that. I still haven't seen that room yet. Probably should warn me there was an extra puzzle. I just sort of assumed that, well, I mean, I don't know what I assumed. I think I just missed it. Oh, I didn't mark that as a win, did I? Whoops. I'm going to mark that as a win in my actual bots. Give me a moment while I do a bit of back-end manipulation here. And we will get straight onto sneak-in submission. So, yeah, thank you. I hope that was useful. Looking forward to whatever you have for me next. So this level is relatively long for you. Okay, so it's going to be 18 seconds rather than 17. Got it. So let's take a look. 1 minute 17. Okay, so a full minute longer than usual. HVG. And is this the new one? I thought I saw a new one come up. Yeah. Bonsai Bill's Ballroom, Team Jam. Ballistic, Bonsai, Barrage with Auto Scroll, Acceleration, Bounce, 1 CP. Oh, for the kind of length you're talking about, 2% is encouraging. So, let's enter the ballroom. Of course, the one time I actually try to go fast in one of your levels, which is often the trapping for me. I feel like I should be preserving as many of these projectiles as I can. It's matching the auto scroll speed. Nope, I should not have taken out the one at the front. I sort of thought that was going to punish me. Pretty neat, by the way. The fact that you have the auto scroll going on does enforce that you'll have a fairly consistent number of projectiles, if not necessarily the spawning pattern on the whole. I guess everything is facing right, so... no, I only needed to pop one of those. So yeah, of course the spawns will kind of depend on my position horizontally. but the auto scroll speed kind of slightly outpacing the bonsais in terms of encouraging the player to move right is something that also kind of works well. Nope. I was thrown off a bit by the uncertainty for a moment over whether I had properly landed on the cannonball or was making contact with the falling platform, and like the falling platform took priority in that instance. And yeah, it's always nice to see that this kind of thing can in fact be done blind. So yeah, I'll just kind of follow the custom scroll. Oh, it is a custom scroll, isn't it? In order to kind of align the player's velocity. Oh, that's going to be bad news. Okay, no, I needed to leave the one at the front, as I was saying on the first attempt. We'll be fairly soon arriving at one and only checkpoint. Nice high jumps to preserve everything for as long as we can. Should have maximized the horizontal spread that's available to me. Fly! Okay. We'll go through here. That was not flying. That was falling with style. Okay. Definitely need the cape here to cover a little bit more distance. Whoops. Yeah, you can't afford to be too tight on a level like this simply because despite the consistency that comes from the auto-scroll, there will be some potential for inconsistency just based on whether my horizontal position is spawning all the cannonballs that I want. Yeah, I see that the cape is not, by the looks of it, absolutely mandatory, but certainly helpful. Nope. Oh, that was unexpected. Have a momentary safe zone there. Yeah, sort of neat to have this reiteration of the first segment that still like it's something distinctive. I mean, I lost a cape for the part where I need to fly, but we'll get back there soon enough, and then we'll do that. Okay, there we go. Yep, have that slight acceleration in the custom scroll just to line things up again. Nope, nope. Messed that up as I was trying to target the P-switch and realized at the last minute that I did not have the height to do that. Nope. Spawn is totally consistent no matter what a player does, okay. Yeah, I guess with cannonballs. I'm sort of thinking too much in terms of bullet logic. Like bullet blaster logic rather than cannon logic. Yeah, because with the auto-scroll enforcing the spawn timings as well, I guess it would be entirely consistent. Now that I think about it properly. Oops. Yeah, that's very true. Okay. Make it over the slight acceleration that we were talking about before. Get an additional bounce before I P-jump. Okay, I took it a little too fast. Trying to fly my way over the whole thing. I mean, it did tell me to fly. It's a ballroom, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's very true. Now, what kind of dance do they do in this ballroom, I wonder? A round. Oh, whoops. You know what? If it were not for the camera boundary, I think flying all the way might have actually done it. But the issue is once I press against the camera boundary, can I continue to float with the cape? That's something that I think I would know, but whoops. Yeah. Yeah, it's not that far. Yeah, because you would basically be pushing up against the screen boundary like you would be pushing up against a wall, right? So as long as I'm insistent about continuing to fly, that's how it would probably work. Not supposed to dodge the bullets. Yeah, no. I know that the intention is probably to drop onto it, but because I was off camera, I think I just massively overshot that. Return to your comment earlier. As in that famous exchange, you know. You mean I can dodge bullets? No, Mario, when you know what on earth you're doing, you won't have to. Okay. I need to not dawdle around there and ram into the 2x2 muncher every time. Okay. Much better. Always get a little tense about waiting for that cannon spawn. That is lowered down. Okay. Nope, I got trapped. Don't know how I faced the wrong direction, but I think it was because I actually rammed into the back of the bullets when I was taking flight. I don't know what happened there, and I don't know what happened there mainly because I was off screen. So it looks like there's something I am supposed to be trusting here in terms of cape timing. Just have to see what that is. Okay. Now, how did I lose that much? Oh, no, I know. Stop pressing right for some reason, probably because I was unclear about my position. I probably should let myself drop a little more so I can actually see my position on screen. Yeah, because trying to play off screen is probably not a good idea here. That is something that I may have been doing in excess. Flying good, cape better. Okay. Suppose I should be doing like a cape whip or something in order to get the top bullet out of the way. But... or just float over to the 3-stack. And, you know, just go bounce, bounce, bounce on the bullets all the way to the end. Main issue with that simply being, once again, that being off screen, I can't actually see where I am landing off the initial flight. It may be something that is supposed to be doable blind, but in terms of the bullet position relative to the takeoff position... oh, nope. Nope, no. Too late. Any ways to cape the gap? Yeah. I mean, the cape is a flexible item. That's certainly what I would expect, and why I think in some sense that we don't actually see that much designed around the flight power of the cape. Partly because, well, I mean, first of all, for people who did not play a lot of Super Mario World originally, the cape is probably more opaque than we take it for in terms of the possible space of interactions between the dive and the, you know, soft drop and everything. Like, there's a lot going on with the cape. But the other thing being that, you know, the cape is just an extremely versatile and flexible item, and that it does have the potential to break a lot of things and prevent you from being particularly strict as a maker. And so having multiple solutions to something like the final segment here is pretty much an inevitability and something that I think is fine. Okay, keep clipping that. Yeah, for you it's intuitive and for the children it's impossible. Yeah, I think so. That, like, I think there is kind of a generation gap when it comes to cape control. Far more than there is for most Mario techniques. I mean, you know, everybody who just kind of grows up with Super Mario World, sure, spends an absurd amount of time just fooling around with the cape on Donut Plains 1, which gives you a practice room to just grab hundreds of coins, right? And, you know, cape was a very cool item at that point, a very new introduction, and if you were encountering for the first time that mechanic in Super Mario World, or even for the generation right after that was encountering it in Super Mario Advance, you know, you spend a lot of time practicing the cape just because you have an official fool around with the cape room to work with that is also repeatable, which is often not the case for a lot of Nintendo bonus rooms. And yeah, so the cape feels great. It particularly feels great, you know, relative to Leaf. Like, I think it's one of those things where, you know, the more Mario Maker you play, the more you see the different level styles juxtaposed with each other in such a way that you can begin to fully appreciate like how much of an advancement mechanically the Cape was over what was offered by the flying mechanics in SMB3. But it is one of those things that I think, you know, feels kind of undocumented, like not necessarily undocumented in terms of not having something in the manual, but something that's, if you didn't play the original game, you're kind of stuck. Okay, that was a bad idea. I thought by taking out the first one that I could take flight and have a little bit more room to work with. Yeah, I love the Cape. I was kind of astonished, you know, even as somebody who played NSMB U and New Super Luigi U to 100% multiple times in co-op as well as single player, that I had forgotten so many of the advanced squirrel mechanics, which of course were never really enforced or required in the original games, just provided as an option that you could play with. But, you know, unless we're talking about the bonus challenges in SMBU, which were closer, I think, to some of the challenges that one sometimes sees in Mario Maker. Okay, that's a G. You're gonna do the lurk? Yeah. No worries about that, Electro Dude. And thank you, Sneak In, for that level. Too bad, all in all. Actually, quite a lot of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that concept quite a bit. I thought that for something that was retreading same layout technically twice over, that the two segments actually felt completely different due to the presence of the Cape and also just a difference in the initial spawns. Kind of a neat little use of custom scroll in the middle of that to resynchronize everything as well and give you a bit of a catch-up point. Worked well. Okay, level feedback, please. Are you still here? Let's take a look. I think level feedback might have fed back. So if they don't check in, I'll just move on to the last two from Terminator Mode and Lone Jedi. 2% I think actually feels pretty decent for that, considering how many bad deaths I was taking in some parts, like, you know, just the initial spawn in the Cape half of the level. Yeah, I mean, you know, part of the challenge with clearing that, I think, is just, particularly with the end segment, is just to estimate how much length I have to work with. And that would be something that, you know, would just not present any obstacle at all to the maker. Anyway, Terminator Mode, it looks like you are here. You might want to check in just to be absolutely sure, but I'll pull up your code regardless just to see what kind of clear rate I am staring at. And you are here? Okay, great. You're surprised at how most players breeze through the first section. I'm not really surprised. I mean, I think when you see tons of cannonballs like that you immediately think to yourself, I want to preserve as many of these as possible, and I want to preserve enough of a spread of horizontal spacing to have flexibility to move backwards and forwards. Like I was saying, I knew immediately that taking out the bonsai that was at the very front was something that was going to cause trouble for myself, and, you know, immediately I just sort of knew that would be an adjustment I would have to make. Yeah, yes, Terminator, I saw you check in. You may actually be last if Lone Jedi also tapped out. Oh no, Lone Jedi's still here. Lone Jedi's still here. Okay, so it's going to be you two last. Escort the Master Sword to the heavens. Beware of the snake. Okay, let's do an escort level. This one is going to be around the 5% range. Yeah, you would naturally think that the cape section is easier simply because the cape rather. Too much 4YMM, still thinking in terms of cake. The cape would, you know, give you a bit of a gentler falling distance. And so that is a natural assumption to make, I think. Isn't this... Okay, it's going to spawn everything over to drop. I see, of course, that you have a very similar mechanism to what we saw in the previous level. And... okay. Yeah, very similar mechanism, and just another sword escort. This time with the kind of markers that you installed previous level. Okay, we actually need to watch what we're doing here. Yeah, nice to have this little spot as an adjustment in terms of being able to stop the Master Sword against the jump block before you project it any further forward. And yeah, Sneakin', thank you for coming by as always. I think I still have to finish progressing through your world. Like, I taken a break from it, and I don't know if it has been revised or re-uploaded since. But like, I've had your world jotted down as a potential backlog thing for, I think, a couple weeks now, and might just not even be there in the same shape anymore since I last looked at it, so... Okay, let's wait for the moving platform to cycle back. Nope, gotta wait again. Bit of a long cycle. Yeah, at some point, you know, you just have to kind of make your peace with the things that you're not 100% certain about. Okay, I don't want to spill this whole thing over. We'll give it a bit of a poke before we jump. Okay, pretty relaxed actually. Partly because I am being extra cautious. Okay. Yeah, I think my experience with the previous level using this concept has taught me to play patiently, being very averse to the idea of losing the sword. Oh, no, I say that, of course, at the exact moment of losing the sword. Okay, I'm just going to scout ahead. I know I lost the sword already. I want to see what's going on, how much I have to do. Wow, this is a very lengthy, continuous thing. And yeah, so I'm just dead now. Okay, I see what's going on. There will be a little bit of an on-off segment. It is going to be a pretty long sword survival challenge, but we'll make it. it's the best way to enjoy a very specific kind of Mario Maker, I think. Like, I find that there's a big gulf between people who really kind of get engaged with Mario Maker as a community and people who are thinking about it just as an extension of a Mario experience in the absence of Nintendo giving them an official one. Like, I have definitely met some people who are, you know, they're not really Mario Maker players, they are just kind of generalist players who happen to have this game. And they are, on the whole, I think, much more traditionally minded, wanting everything to be, you know, pretty much normal Mario. And are into levels where the thing that Mario Maker is doing is mainly aesthetic rather than mechanical. And for players like that, for the length and the difficulty that they're generally looking for, like, they tend to absolutely love the worlds. Like, I've definitely seen that there's a huge level of interest in them because they're not thinking about levels as things that you are kind of picking up individually when it comes to, like, concepts that you have a whole curve of learning and mastering, right? Like, you know, if you look at, you know, Reddit, for instance, Reddit has a very casual demographic in some ways, even among people who are specifically there for Mario Maker. That's, and it's not the only example, for sure. Big awe. That some people are really into the Super Worlds, but for the kind of levels that, you know, we tend to do, I think, with the various kind of hashtag team projects, with like really conceptually oriented things like 4YMM and other projects like that, with viewer levels for sure, where people are constantly showing me ideas and indeed some of those like lengthy multi-part extravaganzas that are explorations of a very specific key idea. Like, that's the kind of stuff that worlds don't really fit unless you have a very specific notion in mind for them. And yeah, I think that, you know, like, it's a matter of knowing your audience and knowing your taste, and that, like, I think there definitely is that kind of culture gap between players that are much more community oriented as makers, like you definitely tend to be, and players who are just kind of, you know, interested in traditional Mario with a bit of a mostly aesthetic twist. I mean, like I've been saying, the thing that really does appeal to me about Mario Maker is the possibility of contraptions and new interactions, and that it does have a certain flavor as an engineering game. And so, you know, that's naturally going to be a perspective that I think doesn't fit the world format so well unless people are really making inventive use of it. I have one regular submitter who comes by sometimes who does these really ambitious multi-part story worlds that have a bit of a narrative to them, and every time I finish one of them, he seems to upload a new one entirely. Those ones are kind of neat to play back-to-back. Like, they actually do quite a lot of work with the world format in terms of making each successive level spatially cohesive, rather than thinking about them as, okay, here are X number of levels and let's just put them in sequence, right? Like, in terms of having the levels inform some kind of spatial reasoning about the ones that are later in the world. I think that's the kind of thing that needs to make the world format shine, is that, you know, the fact of playing them in sequence needs to actually impact the way that you engage with the levels in some way. And of course, that's naturally going to come at a cost of how comprehensible that stuff is going to be for the players who engage with the levels as singles or in something like an endless format. yeah, if you can't count on them to play your levels, yeah, they're not your audience, right? Like, it's pretty clear. Like, if you know that most of the people that will be playing your stuff are going to be... Okay, here's the issue. It didn't despawn. Actually, it didn't despawn, so let's go back. Okay, that's an issue. Except... Oh, I lost it anyway. Yeah, I mean, if you're designing your levels that are mostly going to be played by people who follow either one of the projects or who are streamers, that is really going to affect how you design, I think. And the same goes for people who are, you know, designing for YouTubers, like people who design for troll YouTubers and such are going to have a very different mentality from people who are designing for, you know, level feedback streams. Okay. I've been loving this for quite a while now. And it's not that hard. I just need to pay attention. Yeah, simply no way to find out if a player gets it unless, of course, they're playing it live in front of you. I feel like even when I get this sword successfully this time, it's going to hit the timer, have issues. Yeah, I would assume that you have a stupid amount of time in this game. I would not have guessed any differently. Yeah, the fact that I started streaming this and also in conjunction with that started playing this a lot more constantly has really led my playtime to rocket. Okay, we gotta start this over. The timer is just going to be too long. Take your own body of knowledge for granted. Yeah. I think that's very true, especially when it comes to people who are playing, well, A, puzzles, and B, anything that involves a lot of markers. Particularly things that are going to feel, as you were saying, at least kind of Kaizo-like. Or Kaizo-light, I guess. That if there's enough precision or timing going on with them, or speed, such that they would require markers for clarity, that already is presuming a certain kind of community knowledge. And, you know, like for audiences that are also into that, that's fine. Perfectly fine. But it's a matter of knowing which audiences already share that language. And I have to really watch the synchronization here. I mean, it's kind of like this with any established subgenre of Mario Maker that, you know, troll creators are also kind of assuming that they're making things for troll players. Increasingly, I think. I think it's something that's just kind of come as a result of the troll makers having developed a meta game and developing a sort of shared body of reference. That a lot of that stuff isn't going to be accessible to people who don't get into the same format and watch the same levels. Okay. I didn't think I would be having this much trouble, but I think maybe the gentleness of the resets kind of throwing me off, because this is a very lengthy sequence, for sure. Gotta pay attention. Okay. Finally back. Nope. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, it's still bouncing. We're good. Still bouncing. Jumping up here is fine too. Okay. It's a new record. No. This is a long climb for sure. I feel like a lot of things would be solved by some of these platforms being too wide. Like 2 blocks wide. Let me see how long we're doing for time. I feel like I've done a lot of talking about level design and haven't paid that much attention. Okay, we've only been on for about 5 minutes in the first room, but still plenty of room for improvement. Okay. I'm assuming I would have some distance issues here. Okay, there we are. And yeah, as you were saying earlier about the conversion rate of the traditional players, I think it's very true that, you know, you do, for example, in spaces like Reddit, have people who are just kind of upvoting video clips of, you know, platforming that looks like it might be cool without actually having that convert into plays in terms of people who might still be subscribed to the sub and upvoting stuff, but don't actually have the game actively being played under Switch. And yeah, I think the conversion rate is definitely something that has to be kept in mind when building an audience. Like whether or not you're kind of selling the level to the right kind of people. The best way to do that, I think, is in streams. But of course, you know, we're all kind of familiar with that effect of submitting the streams and being very well liked, and then having your level tanked as soon as it reaches any semblance of popularity, and that's just an effect of having cultivated a very specific audience that is, you know, kind of handpicked. And I think eventually you just sort of accept that that's fine state of affairs, that it's kind of better to have the evidence of people being engaged with your content. Hey, the Dynamic Morel YT, I am closed for the night because I have this level and one more level to go. If you are still here at the very end of that, I will see if I have time to reopen for one more, but I don't expect that to be the case. I can't promise that at this time. If you drop a follow to the channel, you'll be able to find the other times that we stream viewer levels throughout the week. We do about 2 or 3. A mix of kind of overnight / morning streams and afternoon / evening streams. So, yeah. I feel like I'm spending way too much time on this level on just simple stuff that is kind of based on little fussy bits of spacing. I mean, the sword escort concept is fundamentally pretty fun, but it is very fidgety in some ways because it's so easy to fail in a way that feels kind of low impact, if you know what I mean. That, like, picking up a power-up by mistake doesn't really have a lot of weight to it, in the same way that failing the don't jump clear condition doesn't have a lot of weight to it. And I think the other issue is that, like, just given the way that the landing zones for the sword are restricted, they simultaneously restrict what landing zone for the player is going to be. And so, like, finding a stable position to stand on while escorting the weapon, finding a stable position to jump on when you're approaching the weapon, is something that I think is a little bit tricky. Like, I feel like most things in this level would be better if they were 2 squares wide, basically, or even 3 squares wide to give you a little bit more room to tap the sword forward. I know that's maybe not realistic given that this is a vertical layout that is based on a climb and therefore restricts the amount of horizontal space you have available. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's sort of depends. Like, I think there are certain things that benefit from a safety net, depending on their reliability. If this were further along in a fairly complex level and, you know, quite far along past checkpoint, like, I would not want to lose my progress to what seems like inconsistency. I would want to have multiple attempts at it. As something that's right at the beginning of a level, okay, not such a big deal. Like, if you need to kill the player and drop them into a pit, drop the sword into a pit, okay, no big deal, you can do that, right? But, again, I think it depends very much on reliability. And yeah, it's just... I'm beginning to see that the sort of central risk with this concept is that the sword landing zones are also the player landing zones, and therefore, you know, the player always feels like there is just one space too little to stand on. That I always feel like I want an additional space to stand on to the left, but I know that I can't have it because that's how the sword is being restricted in the first place. Okay, like... that's a sort of irritating failure point. Yeah, and then little things like that can go wrong. Like, I don't see why you can't just have, for example, a continuous column of bricks going up that way. Okay. I think I'm going to have to call it on this one pretty soon. Like, in spite of the fact that everything is fairly mechanically simple, I think there are a lot of things that are just kind of a little bit fussy in terms of execution. In that they're precise in a way that does not feel easy to master consistently. And it may just be that I'm too tired to do this well. It may just be. Because at first glance I actually liked the sword mechanisms in this one quite a bit more than the previous escort level, but in the previous escort level definitely felt like it was better paced. In terms of, you know, how quickly you would get the sword into these intermediate miniature goals. So for example, this level has something like a 4 or 5% clear rate on it, and I'm beginning to see that is actually not because of the difficulty per se, like that a lot of it is because simply that you have so many soft restarts that the attempts on average are going to be very long and a lot of the failures are going to be disguised, and that you don't see the failures reflected in the clear rate the way you would with a lot of levels where you do fail immediately. Hey, Rob DeProp, welcome. So yeah, I think I may have to bail on this one pretty soon. Unless I have a really good attempt all of a sudden, because like I'm just failing too much to repetitive stuff that is very difficult to fix from the player's point of view. Like when I have the sword kind of go one tile too far to the left, despite the clarity of the markers, it's a little bit difficult to discern what I can do differently to make it work a little bit more reliably. And as we saw from my scouting of the level earlier, we do have a very long way to go. And that is definitely a case, I think, in favor of killing the player rather than giving them a soft reset in this level. That the soft reset is actually kind of deceptive, in that if you take too many of them, you are not going to have time to finish this level anyway, because of how much there is left to do. So for example, this is as far as we've gotten. We have not gotten past this part here. I'm just going to platform through this, I think, and let's reveal that one more time. Yeah, it's a long ways to go, and that's not counting, you know, this on-off segment over here that is a bit of an Discord challenge in its own right. So I think I am going to drop this for now. Do I accept versus mode levels? I don't know how interesting it'll be to see them in single player. Regardless, the queue is kind of closed right now simply because I am wrapping up for the night, but if you want to give the channel a follow, you can maybe catch me on the next one. Yeah, I can do versus levels in single player. I will do them. I just don't know that it's going to be interesting to watch. So yeah, thank you once again for that, Terminator. We'll just mark this one as a loss for now. Yeah, Rob, probably just give me a moment here. I'm going to see if the last person who is formally in the queue is still here, and I'll see if I can open one for one briefly. But I believe Lone Jedi has been here the whole time lurking. Lone Jedi, you might wish to check in officially. Twitch and Warp World believe you are online, but I want to make sure with me. Okay, this is another first clear. Offered but very few plays on that, 3 players, so. Ankle Biters Unchained. Use the Chain Chomps to defeat Morton and claim Castle Munch as your own. So it is going to be around the centerpiece of a Morton boss battle that we can already see in the preview screen. No clears on it, but very few plays, so really no estimate whatsoever of the difficulty. We might as well try to grab first clear. Okay, that is going to be based on spin jump over to Chomp. Just need to clean up our timing. Yeah, spin jump on a moving targets. It's just going to take a few attempts to clean up, do it accurately. Yeah, this is not hard stuff. I'm just kind of missing. Could be that my ability to read moving targets is just maybe a little bit not on fire right now, but okay, let's hope the shell remains in place. It does. That on switch there looks like it's going to require me to do what? Not going to be a jump out of the shell because I get past a bumper. Looks like I was supposed to jump out of the shell and catch the next shell. I see. No. Let's see if I can salvage this. I'm gonna have to move the other shell here. Hang on. without standing too close. Yeah, no, because I needed to jump out of the shell, grab the next shell, and then use that for an up throw. Okay, there we go. Okay, that works. Then we need to kick a shell over to the right in order to hit that switch. Need to get around here while we do it. Fairly simple so far. Then we have another on-off setup that requires us to do what that is. Going to enforce a one-way panel that keeps us at the door. Don't really know where it drops. Oh, okay. That's a reset. Interesting. Okay, once again, I would have to come back over there. Need to once again jump out, grab that shell before it drops off the claw. Whoops. Okay. There we go. Up throw. And we don't want to reset door, so what do we want? I want to jump out of this such that I can drop the shell on the next trampoline and have it fire the shell at the next trampoline rather, and have it hit the on-off switch on top. Right? There we go. That allows me to grab this guy, grab the trampoline. Feels like grabbing a trampoline is going to be absolutely necessary. Looks like this was requiring some kind of P-switch activation, although it might just be the trampoline, so why don't I just drop that there. Maybe a checkpoint. And we are through. Okay, not too hard to understand that. Looks like this is another case of to jump out. Now, are we going to get another shell spawn? Hello, I feel like we do need it. There we go. Nope. They're past the checkpoint though, so it's not going to be too much of an issue. Whoops. Okay. Yeah, this is all fairly understandable. Okay, really do need to drop another shell if we can. Just keeping it. Oh, I think we actually need to maybe throw this towards the one-way panel. Too far. I definitely want to go back. Grab the next bone shell here. Whoops, got sniped. Fortunate. Yeah, I feel like the idea is that I use the trampoline to move forward from here. Because, yeah, there's clearly a bone shell that's been spawned underneath, down in the lava. And let's wait for the chomp first of all, because I think I can probably aim for that shell and just grab it. There we go. And just kind of up my way over to chomp. There we go. Cover for that guy. At least some of this is probably unintended. Being able to jump over all of this stuff is probably unintended. I think the idea was a trampoline throw. Okay. Ah, I do need a shell. Okay, no, that's the idea, is that I don't want to drop the claw. I want to, once again, jump towards the upper shell, which can happen with a trampoline and with this shell here, by the way. Nope. Wrong. I don't really like the inability to get back to the claw. I think that's maybe been unnecessarily restricted in terms of giving me a second chance at that. Yeah, here is definitely, I think, something to do to moving the trampolines onwards. I do have access to multiple trampolines to do that, so... I feel like reclaiming an additional shell is probably the easier way to do it. Probably unintentional. I think the idea is that you do take 2 successive trampolines, this one and the next one, onwards. No. Okay. Yeah, that's not going to be a good position. It does need to hit the one-way panel. If I do hit the one-way panel, then that should take me accurately over to the bone shell. That is up high. Whoops. Get rid of this guy. Nope. Grab another one. Okay, that's accurate. The other one was not accurate. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's good. Okay. Nope. Didn't quite scroll the camera far enough to see what I was going to be aiming for in the next segment. But, whoops. Get to that soon enough. Soon enough. Okay. Alright, just gotta repeat this as before. Maybe develop a more of a consistent pattern as we continue. Okay, that worked. No, that was a disaster. Let's grab the bone shell. Oh no. Yeah. Good idea, a little bit maybe unclear about accuracy when it comes to the object drawing. So a little bit difficult to recover your position if you fail in certain things like that. Yeah, because if it were easier to reclaim an additional shell, that would be, I think, ideal. Okay. Okay, that worked. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be an up throw, and then I can land safely on the on-off switch. I feel like whenever you have up throws like that, they work better when the target switches are 3 switches wide. Because you are going to have certain inaccuracies that, you know, still feel like they should be on target. And with the bumper guarding 3 spaces, I think it can be a little more lenient. See here? Nope. Disaster. Oh yeah, total disaster. Nope, too much momentum there. Nope. Yeah, sometimes when you see things like the very limited spacing after that on-off setup that, you know, requires you to cut your momentum right away, that some things are just kind of damaging for the sake of being damaging. I'm not quite convinced they work. Okay. And that's a parallel of a lot of Mario Maker design in general, is if certain spots are just a little too concerned about killing the player rather than making the precision involved, you know, interesting to interact with. But I generally find that after a big obstacle segment that has a bit of motion, there should be a little bit of a stop, but you don't want to run into something just from having a final landing zone that a little bit too small. It's kind of what was happening there at the top with the final on-off switch up in that bumper in the top left. Okay, that's a disaster. Fine. Nope, that's also a disaster. Actually, I have an opportunity to grab a couple of these, so do it that way. They did respawn since the trampoline seemed to have died in the lava and off screen, so nope, that's a disaster. I think it's fairly likely that this will be the last level that we do in this session. Make a fair effort to grab that first clear, since very few players so far have taken a serious effort at it, but we'll have to see how it goes. Yeah. Nope. I'm usually not too insistent on things like throwing markers, but there is enough here that is dependent on throwing accuracy along a trajectory that is hard to guess. That looks like it could definitely benefit from something like that. In terms of just a little bit more clarity about when throws are going to happen, so they don't have to be constructed by trial and error and memory. Okay. Nope. Dictionary Bullet Bill, it is closed for now because I do expect this to be the last level I can get through today before I log off. If miraculously this goes by really quickly and you're still here, I might be able to open up for one more, but I don't expect that, and I can't guarantee that. Simply because we are running quite a lot later than expected already, so... Was not really counting on running a viewer level stream tonight at all, actually, so I'm surprised we got through as many as we did. But thank you for dropping by regardless. I'm glad you came by and asked. Worthwhile, even if I am finishing up for this session. Nope, missed. Completely missed. Oh, okay. No, he didn't. I did respond. I basically said that this is the last one I'll be doing. Unless it suddenly goes by very quickly, in which case I might be able to reopen for one more, but I don't expect to do that today. Sometimes I can reopen for one more if I close the queue and all the levels are really short, but this one has been a little bit of a harder grind, so have to be a little bit careful. Nope, that was a miss. Okay. Yours isn't that easy? Okay, we'll hopefully see it the next time you catch me. And yeah, totally alright if you just want to stay and hang out anyway. I have to finish this one here, the last level of this session probably, and the first clear is still available, which is why I'm staying on it for a little while. It is a new level that does not have any victories yet, so some of this stuff I may be the first person to see properly, other than the designer themselves. Go. Okay, there we go. Let's ride. Whoa. No, no, no. I needed to duck with the dry bones. That was a failure. Okay. Probably a 1.5 on Team Shell. Okay. That sounds like something I would potentially manage. I've beaten things in Team Shell that are harder than that. I mean, not that I've really gone over them by website. I tend to really only play Team Shell levels that are submitted to me, but I do have a decent number of submitters who usually, as they tell me, fall into the 2 to 3 range. I don't always beat those things, but, you know, only way to learn, so. Yeah. Definitely learning a lot in this level about how far off my throw spacing can be when it comes to estimating where to let go of an object. Making it hard for myself sometimes. There we go. About 40 minutes? Yeah, okay. I mean, you know, your own ability to do something like a shell level is going to affect your own ability to clear check your own stuff, right? So when I see shell levels by people who are not too far above my level of ability, I start thinking, okay, they had to clear check this, they had to deal with it as well, so surely it can't be that bad. Quite often one trick that you can't do with them, yeah, that's what I find as well. That, I mean, I know their difficulty system is kind of personally judged by somebody who reviews them. But it is very true that, like, as you may know from watching me a few times now, that the main issue that I have with a lot of shell tech is just consistency, in that I might be able to do them, do the tricks, but I might only be able to do it 10 or 20% of the time, and if that's the case, that's a lot of repeated attempts that slow down my ability to learn anything else in the level. So that's when I really get into trouble. No, keep missing every single one. Let's grab the shell. Try to do this to shell away as possible. Hang on, whoops. Get on these spikes here. Need to not get too close because I don't want to drop that shell yet. I want to catch it. That. Yeah, really feel like sort of claw into up throw like that should give me a little bit more leeway when it comes to the up throw, like maybe about 3 spaces. And that is mostly my own imprecision talking. By imprecision, I mean stuff like that. It's, when it comes to toughness, well, I mean, it just requires you to kind of be very careful every step, I think. And also that because there are no throw markers, it does require you to guess some of the throwing positions sometimes. I'm not really that keen on having too many markers in levels anyway, so I don't want to complain too much about it, but you can definitely tell when you play a level like this why people do insist on markers. simply because there is a lot of stuff that does feel like guesswork sometimes. When it comes to trying to do things repeatedly. And also because my general estimate of how to throw objects sometimes be very far off. There we go. Yeah, that's a disaster. But we'll see. I have been on this for close to half an hour. I might just have to abandon it, but I'm not at the boss fight yet, so... And the first clear is available, so that kind of encourages me by way of the sunk cost fallacy to try to complete it properly. The Dry Bones way is easier, but the way that the spacing works here makes it actually a little bit risky to come back here and get a Dry Bones shell. You would think it's easy, with bouncing to the left and grabbing a new shell. Not actually as easy as it looks. Yeah, that was, again, a little bit of guessing. I kind of agree that the Dry Bones way is better, but there are some things that can go wrong with it as well. I really do get the sense that the Dry Bones method is not what was designed. In fact, I'm pretty convinced that it wasn't. Like, if you look at the way that the one-way panels and everything else are set up on a top segment, it becomes very clear that I'm using an alternate method here. As long as I can get here in time. Yeah, it's just hitting that up throw there that's quite tricky. It has gotten me several times. Land and claw and drop right so it's not blind. Yeah, that's true. Actually, landing in the claw is surprisingly kind of weird given the position, because high bounce from the trampoline gets you too high and runs you against a pipe. Low bounce from the trampoline actually sometimes gets you too low. Like, I was trying that a bit earlier, and the reason that I wasn't using the Dry Bones method very often is simply because it is a little bit fussy to get back down there. So, but I do see what you're saying, like just kind of drop like that. I've done that a few times. Sideways momentum makes it hard, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot in this level that requires you to keep you on your toes about... Whoops. Holding versus riding the shell. I'm almost through this part though. Like, I got as far as... I have gotten past that on-off switch. I just died to a thwomp because I had a bit of a poor reaction time. That segment. Now, when the shells do not respawn from the yellow pipe, that's how I know that there's a shell that is directly under the claw. So, yeah, the way that I'm able to kind of drop in here blindly is I'm doing it based on whether I see the shells respawn. Because, of course, as soon as you wear a shell, then it counts as having been consumed. And then you get a new spawn, just like that. Okay. Try to do this throw accurately for once. Nope. Yeah, and you see how it's kind of like on that half tile between the on-off and ground tile. That's exactly why I think spots like that often should be 3 tiles wide as a hit zone. because, you know, you do have to hit extremely accurately while having the sideways momentum to deal with. Okay, let's that guy get out of the way. Let's get back up here. Yeah, I do need to hit that on the way up. Not on a backswing like I've been doing. Like, I've been overshooting it and turning around to fire. And that's clearly too late. It's not going to get me safely on reactivated red blocks in time. Okay. That spot, I think, just generally has very tight spacing to it in terms of the landing zone. But I think the main thing is just a hit zone on the on-off block itself. Like having a one block hit zone out of a claw like that, just never really going to feel great. Wait. Back up here. Well, it did hit the switch that time, I just came in a little bit low. Okay, that's a problem. I'll see, I'm mostly staying on this one for the first clear at this point. Don't actually know if the creator is still lurking or they left some time ago. Thought they were lurking at the time I started this one, but that's okay. Was intended to be the last anyway. Let's go back down for the... Oh. Okay. There we go. Fairly easy to get back here, at least. But yeah, there's just not enough falling height from that. I think maybe I just need a fuller jump, to be honest. I'm letting up on the jump too soon. Okay. Get more starting height? Yeah, could be. Could be. Very tight spacing in general. Yeah. No, I do see what you mean in terms of the swing height. Yeah, it could be that more momentum in general is going to be the solution. Nope, that was just missing the up throw entirely, as you can see. Because I was trying to do a bit of an adjustment, knowing that I was about to overshoot. And it's a very short landing zone, even if you do make it. Like, even if you do hit the switch, as I had done on a few previous attempts, the landing zone after that is actually a bit tight as well. In that it's very easy to overshoot with your momentum and die immediately after. So I have to learn how to make that adjustment. We'll see how that goes. Nope. Okay, just going to go back here. And up we go. Yeah. There we go. Now I need to jump into this thing. Oh, wait. How did I miss that? Thought I... Yeah, no, I do need to jump into that thing in order to proceed. Yeah, that's the thing, like, everything just feels like it's, a bit too tight to, you know, give me the sort of freedom of movement that I'm looking for. And again, like, usually the problem is just too many spikes, basically. And yeah, falling into the bone shell over a spike like that seems... Oh, I was holding run. Yes, yes. No, that's a very good observation. That's a very good observation. Very difficult to break that habit. No, you're absolutely right. That's the issue I was running into. Okay. Okay, and then I need to kick that. But why do I need to kick that? Because it seems like... Oh, maybe that's a reset door, though. But if I hit the on-off here, that loses the shell and forces me to go up. Not sure I actually want to do that. I want to check this. I think this might be a reset door, but I don't know where it's going to spawn me as far as doors go. Oh, all the way back here? Really? Okay. That's really unfortunate. I don't know why the reset door placement is all, to be honest. I don't really see the purpose of that unless it was just being... just for testing. Yeah, I think from the camera positioning it was unclear to me whether I should go for it. Because I kind of had a suspicion that was a reset door, but not that it would be matched all the way back here. Yeah, I probably will get it, but not too worried about that. As for if you get hit by the pump, yeah, that's a good observation. Certainly looks like the case. Right, because if you try to damage boost up without the shell, you would be trapped. That is very true. Okay. We can do it. Okay. Kick it. And that releases... Okay, it's a level that I think is really not thinking hard enough about camera positioning. Like, the platforming itself is good. I don't mind the platforming itself. And some of the interactive mechanisms are good. But actually being able to see what's going on, it's a pretty big limitation here. I think there are just a lot of visibility issues that come from not really seeing how the player is going to scroll. Yeah, I do understand what you were saying about the resets being based on accidentally damage boosting through the top, though. Very true. Yeah. While this isn't an endless, this is actually a submission from earlier, except I think I don't know if the maker is actually here or still lurking. I assume they might have gone. I haven't heard anything in a while, so. But yeah, I haven't played Endless in ages, but I think that was definitely part of the Endless experience, is that you have a lot of people who are kind of building entirely in the editor and not thinking hard enough about testing the camera in the play mode, which is absolutely essential. Like, people really need to walk through levels to see when a player is actually going to see something coming. I find that a lot of makers often forget that that is a thing worth doing. That they're just kind of assuming that what they see in the editor is going to go the same way when the player is stepping through it, and that's just manifestly not the case. But yeah, the actual interaction of occasionally riding the shell, occasionally throwing the shell is fine. There's quite a lot that I do like about this level. Yeah, exactly. That, you know, if something feels weird to you already as the maker, when you submit it around, it is something that you are going to see again and again and again, that people are going to struggle with it. Struggle in ways that, you know, you probably knew you could avoid. And I think that is a very typical maker experience. That you realize that the minor annoyances become major annoyances once you see multiple people run into them. Okay, let's actually get the throw early this time. Yeah, just don't like that up throw. I may be bailing on this pretty soon, to be honest. I made a pretty reasonable stab at it up to this. There's just a little too much blindness, and there's actually a Morton fight that's going to come later in this level from what the previous screen told me. So we're pretty far from actually finishing. Yeah, it should be fun for you to play, for sure. Like, you should enjoy playtesting it, and really obsessing about the details and just kind of running through it for fun. I am going to be honest, I think. There was no first clear on it yet, but there were very few players who had actually taken any kind of serious stab at it. But if Maker's here, I can see it another time and maybe better stab at it. We were past checkpoint 1. No, it's not past checkpoint 2. That was in the vertical subworld anyway, so I wouldn't have been able to see my progress by looking at this screen. Yeah, maybe another time. Yeah, and I think that going back to your levels after a long absence can really put them into a new perspective as well. So yeah, thank you for dropping by, Dictionary Bullet Bill. I am, I think, not really able to take more levels tonight like that. Kind of pushed me to do about as long as I'm willing to go. I do have a couple plans later this week, though. We will likely be running viewer levels again for the EM session. So, NA afternoon and EU evening on Thursday. That's the current plan, and hopefully we're able to stick to it. Going into the weekend, we will once again be doing a bit of a catch-up stream on the Saturday to Sunday late night stream, if all goes well. That will once again include a bit of a maker preview of the people who are coming in 4YMM Week 2. So that's currently the plan. I will hopefully be able to get your level in there somewhere, particularly if I run the queue in one of the late night streams, but we'll see. Like, I've already done a bit more streaming this week than I originally intended to, so yeah, I'm glad to see you come by. It's always nice to have some people just drop by to hang out and talk level design and talk about anything, really. So thank you all for watching / lurking. I'm going to scan around for somebody else to pass you off to. Usually I pick somebody else who is also doing viewer levels and is hopefully early on in their queue, but sometimes I change things up a bit, so we'll look around. And yeah, certainly wishing you a good morning or heading into good afternoon wherever you are. Have a good day. You can catch me next time. I can totally play it on stream. Not a big deal. So, see you next time.